Hello, everybody. This is Miss Valley Entertainment News. My name is Dread. Today, we're going to jump right into a reaction video. This is a video that will be linked down below in the description where Mr. Matty Plays talks about Avowed. Let's get right into it.
Salutations, everybody. It is Matty here today, and finally, the patience has paid off. We're sitting down to talk about Avowed. We're back to business as per usual. This has been our most requested video for the last couple of weeks with the new deep dive of gameplay for Avowed out. We also have, more recently, brand new information from director Carrie Patel on the size of the game, the scope of the game, and the best comparison.
I'm glad people have been requesting this. I'm glad more people are interested and more people want more knowledge about this game, because the initial backlash to the game I felt was a little bit unfair. It's totally unfair to have some backlash, but I thought the things that were getting picked on and the ferocity that was being displayed towards what is mainly just about the fighting in the game, when it was first released video back in January, was it, or something? There was a lot of vitriol online about it. And I thought it was a little unfair. I did argue with some people over it, and I don't want to pat myself on the back, but it's looking more and more like the things I was saying about the combat are becoming more true now, even more true, and especially much more true than what people were saying back in January about the combat being so terrible and that the game was going to suck. Again, I don't want to be a shill for this game. I'm not getting paid by by the studio or anything else, and the game could come out and be a clunker. It's always possible, but I like to be positive on this one.
Comparisons you can make for Avowed, which does not include Skyrim. We'll get into all of that. But thank you for your patience nonetheless. As I said, back to business as per usual, starting today. So let's get into some games, y'all. First off, at the top, I want to talk about the deep dive gameplay that came out on the Xbox podcast. Now, for those who are not aware of my prior thoughts on Avowed, I was very much convinced this is a Matty style game, but I wasn't totally in love with the showing we got at the developer direct. I think Obsidian games have fine enough combat, and definitely comparatively speaking, Avowed looks the best in that department from what we've got from them in the past. But when I talk to you about something like The Outer Worlds or Fallout New Vegas, I'm not really trying to sell you on the gameplay experience. I'm trying to sell you on the role-playing, the dialogue, the choices, the reactivity. That's the stuff from Obsidian that really lights my fire.
What they're known
and
for.
I felt like a lot of that was missing in the developer direct. Things like even dialogue were barely present, and that was upsetting to me. But as someone who knows and loves Obsidian games, I didn't really let that deter my hype, but more so I called for there might be a delay here. But this June, when we got the new trailer for Avowed, oh my gosh, did it look way better already. And I felt very convinced, you know what? This actually may come out this year. Now, there was a release date leak of November 12th. We'll get into that a little bit later, but it's since then been removed. So we don't know if this is for sure coming out this year, but nonetheless looks much improved. And the best part about it all is here in this deep dive, I finally got to lay eyes on things that I wanted to see from Avowed, but also I got some clarifications on information I wasn't really processing properly.
Cool.
What I mean by that is at the top, when you see the gameplay start off, they highlight a lower level character in a higher level zone. And you'll see the combat is kind of dudding a bit. If you listen back to the interview, you'll hear the gameplay in the background, and the attacks sound like duds. They're really thudding around constantly. You know, all the automatopoeias that are unsatisfying, basically.
But you're starting out as a low-level character in an area where the enemy is tougher than you are. So it's taking a long time to break through their shields, so to speak, to actually get some actual damage happening. In other words, it's like hacking away at a tree with a sword. Sure, you could eventually take the tree down. I mean, depending how big the tree is how long it's going to take, obviously. But you're doing very little damage for a long time. Same kind of thing with that gameplay, and that's what people will react to. Oh, it's terrible. It's no. It wasn't that terrible of combat at all. It was not clear at the time when it originally launched with that clip that you were a lower level character facing off against higher level than you enemies. And it does show later on in that the combat is much better, much smoother, much more reactive, and feels and looks better when you're up against enemies that are your level or maybe even below.
And then you've got the also visual feedback of your weapon kind of kicking off of them. Doesn't look or feel as good. And they showed a little bit of that in the developer direct originally. And at that point, I'm like, well, the feedback isn't that great for combat. This looks like it needs some refining. But you start to see that not only with some time to adjust and respond to that feedback, but also understanding, oh, you're underleveled. The game is visually and audibly communicating to you, hey, it might be time to upgrade or swap weapons for this enemy because it's more resistant to this type of attack. That's sort
cool.
of thing. And so just
like
those
that.
little details there went a long way with me understanding what Avowed is. Not only that, but we got to see dialogue in its full glory, which is something I really wanted to see more of beyond the minor side quest option that we got from the first developer direct with Avowed. We saw skill checks and flavor dialogue, which director Carrie Patel talked about how a lot of this is determined through the character creator. There's one point where you're talking to Yatsley and she's got 6 dialogue options that you can go through and how you want to respond. That's music to my ears. Overwhelm me every step of the way with dialogue choices, and I'll be a happy boy. And also, last little thing I wanted to talk about was the visuals. I have to say that this game is very pretty in its own way. Like some of the nighttime shots, they mention it here in this little interview, but I agree. The nighttime shots in this game look good. Like there's this one spot that they briefly show where you see this village glowing kind of a purple hue, and it's beautiful. Kind of gave me Fable vibes, honestly. But nonetheless, I thought this game looked really great. Now, the best thing about this gameplay, no doubt about it at all, I thought they'd be shouting this thing from the rooftops, and I'll get into why, but they kind of did it on the low, is a third-person mode in Avowed. So this is why I think a lot of people...
And I'm sure a lot of people want that. It didn't bother me either way, but it's good to have an option. So many RPGs nowadays do have the option that when you take the option away, people don't like it. Totally understand that.
People are continuously drawing Skyrim comparisons. When you see the third person slow camera rotation in the camp scene, that's some I left my controller on idle in Skyrim type energy right there. And you can see that all over Avowed. While I think the comparisons are understandable with Skyrim, they're really claiming in prior interviews that have been done with Carrie Patel that you should look at games like The Outer Worlds in the terms of scope and narrative design as well as length. They mentioned that it's around the same length too, but also like this is a Pillars game. So they say, look at Deadfire if you want to feel for what this game is going to be like.
And as far as length goes, I played The Outer Worlds and got through it, which is good. I play a lot of games that I really, really love that I never end up finishing because they're so damn long. Even though I love them, a lot of times I don't. I burn out. I get distracted by something else and I never go back and finish them. So yeah, I mean, if I end up getting this game and end up liking this game, I would hope I'd want to go through and be able to finish it. Having a slightly shorter game is probably a good thing. Like Baldur's Gate 3, an amazing game, won a great many awards. I love the game. I love playing it. I have never even got to, I've got just slightly into Act 2. That's as far as I've ever gotten in that game because it takes so long to play. It takes up so much of your life. I get distracted by other things. One day I will finish Baldur's Gate 3. One day.
I still think Skyrim was a clear inspiration to this game. I mean, you can't look at that reveal trailer of Avowed and think it's not, but it definitely reminds me more of The Outer Worlds in the terms of its hubs and its zones, as we'll get into direct quotes from Carrie Patel. We also subsequently learned that this third-person mode, the whole game is playable in it. So it's not just this camp scene or specific parts of the game. Like, you can just run around in third person. Why did I think they'd be shouting this from the mountaintops? With The Outer Worlds, the single biggest request from that game as someone who did a ton of content for that title, absolutely 1000% was the third person option not being.
I don't think The Outer Worlds needed third person, just my opinion.
there. Please add it in a patch. There were so many conversations about the Outer Worlds needing a third person mode. There were people who were refusing to buy it because it didn't have a third person mode. So to me, I see this as a response to that feedback. I'd still love to see Outer Worlds with a third person mode. I think the days of updating that are done, but hey,
Yeah.
Outer Worlds 2, it's got to have that third person mode. But seeing Avowed have that, love that option there, because for me, I love being able to see the armor I'm wearing, do the full rotation, take it all in, and then likely go back into first person. We also learned that gear has 4 tiers: common, fine, exceptional, legendary, and you'll require specific items as well as money for upgrades. So yeah, pretty bare bones, simple upgrade system for your weapons here. I don't think
good, because the Outer Worlds had a very, I think, complicated upgrade system. I mean, I know you'd find workbenches all over and throw upgrades together, put them on your weapons, but there was so many different weapons and so many different upgrades that I thought it was overwhelming. There's no way to play through. You're going to get anywhere. You're going to touch a 10th of them. So what's the point of having all that many? That's my opinion.
I think that's a bad thing. I'd like for those things to be simplistic compared to character building, stat allocation, build crafting, that sort of stuff. We also learned a bit about attributes when you're building your character. There's might, which determines your damage and carry weight; constitution, which determines health and poison/bleed resistance; there's dexterity, which determines your attack and action speed; perception, which affects your critical hit chance and range; intellect affects your essence and elemental resistance; and resolve determines your stamina and second wind cooldown. Now, each attribute, it says, has a bonus that ends at rank 10 on the bottom, so that seems to be the highest you can go with it. And we also learned about abilities, each having 3 ranks that you can upgrade. And by the way, you can respec whenever you want, so keep this in mind when you're building your character initially in Avowed between attributes and abilities. We saw quite a number of them. The fighter had the charge ability. Ranger, we saw Tanglefoot, which was an ability to ensnare an enemy. And there were more passive ones like Finesse, Marksmanship, which determined your damage for things like guns. There was Dodging. There's a parry ability. Then you had the Wizard with Minor Missiles, Armored Essence, Wand Mastery, Chill Blades, Fan of Flames. There were also 2 branches we didn't get a look at in Godlike, as well as Companions. So yeah, the Outer Worlds comparisons continue on. You can sort of see the skeleton of the Outer Worlds living throughout this entire game, just with different names. For example, seeing companion abilities, that was something that was already in the Outer Worlds. I think the way you see the stats and how they're laid out, it kind of reminds me of the Outer Worlds, just with different names. So this is a lot of that asset reusage coming in and helping Obsidian out a lot with building these games.
Yeah,
but
fine.
I am very curious about what the godlike abilities are like. And so, yeah, just this looks like a great character building system, a lot of depth here, and good that you can respec whenever you want, because you can kind of change your build on the fly. You also got a good look at exploration. There was one point where the player character burned things down to open up new areas to explore. We already saw in the developer direct being able to like freeze a river and use that as a way to jump up to a higher location. That stuff is awesome. I could see some really cool player creativity there. And you see how it gets rewarded in the end of this gameplay. So they show the end of this quest in 2 ways, where you're trying to get the Adragon's heart. There's one approach which is more aggressive. You see the player just killing all of these enemies, going to the heart of this lair, killing this mini boss, and taking the heart there. Then there is the stealth option, which they also show off, where the player does not engage, sneaks in, engages in dialogue, and the reception from this character is completely different now, and they are more than willing to help you out because you did not kill her people. And so I just love that the reactivity has changed in Obsidian game, from not just the dialogue and the things you say, but it's the things you do in the world.
Yeah,
so that's very exciting for me. And that was the essential big takeaways for me from this deep dive into Avowed's gameplay. And now we got some interview quotes to get into to sort of shape that.
A lot of game devs and designers and people say that the game is reactive to your gameplay. And when you play the game, it's really not. But this shows in tangible ways how the approach you take to solving something matters.
That opinion further. Quoted by IGN, in an interview with Game Informer, game director Kerry Patel was asked if Obsidian embraces comparisons to Skyrim or pushes against them. Patel replied by failing to name-check Bethesda's all-conquering fantasy role-playing game, instead suggesting fans should think about sci-fi RPG The Outer Worlds instead. I think the best comparison is The Outer Worlds, Patel insisted. I think that gives a much clearer idea of the scope of the game and also the design and layout. Like The Outer Worlds, Avowed has a series of open zones that are connected and unlock over the course of the game, rather than one giant map that you can walk through from beginning to end. And yeah, in terms of the kind of quest structure, the narrative structure, it's a lot closer to The Outer Worlds as well.
So not a true open world game. That's fine, as long as you're able to walk around in those zones that kind of do what you want. That's fine.
The best comparison for Avowed in the terms of scope is The Outer Worlds, game director Kerry Patel revealed during a chat with Game Informer. Players can expect a roughly similar experience just like The Outer Worlds, depending on what kind of difficulty they play and how thoroughly they explore and invest inside content versus just sticking to the main crit path missions. For me, I remember reviewing The Outer Worlds, no DLC by the way. I remember reviewing The Outer Worlds and that took me about 35 hours to beat. So Avowed falling in that pocket is great news.
I think it took me about between 60 and 70 hours to get through, and I didn't play with DLC either. So I'm a slower gamer though. I mean, I do take my time in games, try to hit up all the side quests I could do, try to talk to all the people, explore all the scenery. So yeah.
I gotta say, shout out to the patience from some of the leaders at Obsidian. This is like the millionth time I've seen them been asked about the Avowed and Skyrim comparisons. And I get it initially,
Must be
right?
tiring.
Like you see this reveal trailer and then you see the gameplay and there are some differences there. People want clarification. We got that like 2 years ago now, but they keep having to re-clarify something and I don't get why. Like, I don't know how else to say this. Ask a different question. Think of something else. Why are we still asking them about, hey, is this Skyrim? No, she already said it like 3 friggin' times, but she continues to answer it in different ways now. It's unbelievable in a sense, but I just had to get my bars off on that. So I apologize. But yeah, this question's been...
I mean, people, if you want Skyrim, I mean, clearly go to the company that made Skyrim and play Starfield, because it's Skyrim in space. Except lots of people like Skyrim and still play it. Yeah, never mind.
Been asked a million times, but now we have a good idea of the length of the game. And I think knowing it's a little more compartmentalized like The Outer Worlds is great, because what does it lead to but more replayability, less fatigue. You finish a 30-hour playthrough and then you replay it again another time later for another 30 hours. Like that's how it goes with these Obsidian style games, dating way back to like KOTOR 2 in my experience. Like that's what they've been known for. I think that's their best strengths, and I hope they continue to stick with it, because truly, in my opinion, they don't need to make Avowed like Skyrim. We already have Skyrim, which many of us are still going back to this day, and games that are really surpassing it in many ways on a technical level, like say The Witcher 3, or you have other fantasy RPGs that are epic like Dragon's Dogma. They're not hard to find, but games like Avowed, which are more compartmentalized and choice-based, are difficult to find. So please stop forcing the comparison when it's not there any longer and has been clarified many times over. Kerry Patel also spoke on choice and consequence, saying choice and consequence
Wait. So is Avowed Skyrim or not? I don't know. I don't know the answer yet. I don't get it.
Something that unfolds for the player over the course of the game. There are choices that you're going to make that are going to have immediate effects, choices that you'll have to make that will have effects that you'll see maybe hours later, and some that you'll make that you'll come to see at the very end of the game, kind of like how those play out further on into the future.
Cool.
But along with that, you've got choices that are very intimate and impactful for specific characters, and some that really affect the state of entire settlements of the living lands and the living lands at large.
So they talked about how you can kind of have three different styles of gameplay, and you could intermix them, but you can be kind of on the side of the land. You can just be for, the peace of the people, the reclaiming of the land, and helping everybody. You could be totally, I was sent here to get answers, and I'm going to get answers, get the F out of my way, or you're going to die while I get my answers. Or you could be somewhere in the middle on that as well. So that actually, depending on the way you play it, you could play this game 3 times choosing one of those paths. You could choose the path on the right. Next, you play the path on the left, and then you could just go one where you mix the two. That would be fascinating to do. Now, is the game good enough for you or me or whoever's playing it that you don't want to play it 3 times? I don't know the answer to that, but I think that's a cool option. Um, I would love to think that my character, since we're kind of pigeonholed into you were sent here to do a task, that my character is going to walk in and be a badass. What I miss about that, I think, will make you want to play again, is you might miss a lot of the sarcastic and witty conversation and be more, be the hard ass. But that makes me want to maybe go play the game again and be the quirky, funny, fun-loving, everybody's best friend character, right? So yeah, I like that idea, and let alone talking words talking.
There are a couple of very, very big choices the player will make at the end, she said, and those are very clearly telegraphed. The ending that they will get is the result of what very big choices do they make, but also the numerous and subtle choices that they make along the way. I love the sounds of this, of course. Got to see how it plays out in practice, because we've had many games in the past promise choice. I trust Obsidian will deliver on choice. I like the approach here of how choice will happen in big and small ways, because I think that was very much well represented in the deep dive gameplay that we got. We saw with our own eyes how Avowed has the smaller choices, like, hey, this is just a step in a quest, but it can end in different ways depending on if you're aggressive or stealthy. Like, those are little choices versus what she's describing as very telegraphed, big level choices where you're going to make a decision and it's going to determine your ending, or it's going to hurt or help a character, that sort of stuff. So I'm curious to see how it plays out, but it looks like they got the right idea here. And the real question is, like, when are we getting our hands on this thing? And Avowed accidentally posted its release date, as documented here by IGN, of November 12th on their website before quickly removing it. The interesting part about this is it was also originally leaked by Tom Warren. Some people are wondering why Avowed didn't get a release date at the June showcase. I mean, many games didn't get a release date at the June showcase that we thought would. And it seems like Gamescom is shaping up to be a pretty major show for Xbox. And I think that's where you can expect some clarity on release dates.
That's
and this
August,
may be
late
wise
August
for them to do. It allows them to move things further down the line, get closer to that potential release date internally, identify if they're close or need a little bit more time, because right now Xbox has an abundance of riches in that holiday fall period. And maybe something like, I would say, an Indiana Jones would be the best choice to kind of let it slip out of the holiday window and put it at the top of the year.
So maybe a January release date?
I think that's why they may be holding back on release dates. We're still waiting on Gamescom, where, again, we're hearing it's shaping up to be a big show. And maybe there we get that release date. But nonetheless, ladies and gentlemen, that's everything on Avowed. Absolutely love what I'm seeing with this game. Shout out to all the new information, the deep dives there. I was already like, hey, this is a Matty game. I'm just a little concerned on quality front here, because we knew this game had a little bit of a troubled development cycle. It was also originally a multiplayer game, but it looked like it has recovered from that, and I really don't have any
As I've discussed in previous videos in the past, I disagree that it had any kind of issues in its development cycle at all. I categorically say no. I disagree with Mr. Matty on that, but that's just me. I want to point that out. I have talked about that before.
Concerns anymore. It's just give me that release date and I'll be there. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, let me know your thoughts on Avowed down below. Other than that, take excellent care of yourselves, and I will.
And let me promise you something, people. If Avowed comes out and it sucks, I will be one of the first to tell you. Yeah, I kind of was very hopeful for this game, and it ended up sucking. I will do that. Like I say, I'm not here as a hype train. I just have hope for this game, but whether or not my hope will be, revealed to be like, hey, I'm losing my words. I don't know. I'm very tired right now. I'm sorry, but if a game comes out and my hopes get crushed, right, and the game is just not good or whatever, I'll be quite honest. Say, okay, hey, it's not good. Also, I'm hoping the game is not going to be priced categorically high. Because if it is, then I won't be able to get it right away. I'll have to wait for it to go on sale, which may take 6 to 8 months or whatever, because financial struggles right now, financial struggles big time, and making the amount of money I do at my job, I should be not struggling. I definitely shouldn't be a millionaire. Definitely not. I definitely shouldn't be taking Caribbean vacations. But I'm saying, you know, something has happened here as far as the prices of everything going up far beyond what I can afford. That's it's made life very tough right now financially. So, um, being able to go out and spend $100 on a game is just not really an option at all. So, everybody, this is my coverage of what Mr. Matty says recently here about Avowed, and hope you enjoyed this. And we'll see you next video. Thanks for sticking with me. Don't forget this original video, link down below. Also, links to my other channels and my Discord. Don't forget to leave a like, drop a comment, and of course, if you have not subscribed to the channel, consider doing so. Thank you all so much. I would do this if I was talking to nobody, but the fact that people actually watch these videos does mean the world to me. Thank you all so much. Have a great day. Bye-bye.